first thing I think that happens as a consultant is we worry that we're bugging our hosts, okay? So first of all, we need to know that most hosts would tell you that they didn't hear from their consultant enough. So I think a lot of times we err on the side thinking, oh, I don't want to bug him or her, I want to be real, honoring. And so that's the thing, and I like to reach out to them as in several different ways. So maybe texting, maybe a phone call. I'm a big fan of mailing them something so that they hear from you in a few different ways. So then it's not always that you're calling them every time, but you're touching base and they know you're on board and taking their party seriously. So I think that helps them then take their party more seriously. Another thing is sometimes, I know I was guilty of this, is just assuming that hosts know what they're doing.
And a lot of them have never had a party before,
No,
right?
Exactly, and I of all people should have known that because I was not a party hoster. But they don't, we're the experts, so it's really up to us to draw out some guidelines. What is the norm? I like to tell them, my average party falls between here and here, so that you begin setting a norm for them and then they know what they're shooting for.
And what about attendance? Because a lot of times, you invite, not everybody comes.
Oh, and I think that's one thing I'll tell them now. If you want 10 people there, which would be awesome, you're going to want to invite 30 to 40 because no given night is going to work for everybody. And letting them know that, because sometimes they have this nightmare of what if all 30 people come, and they get a little freaked out. And I'm like, no, it's just not going to happen. It never has. So over invite. Secondly, having them remind their guests is so key. And today in the world we live in, texting is huge. So I love that Norwex now has some little text images on a little app called Red Stamp, and also I know some of our consultants are so good at creating their own little parties tomorrow, can't wait to see you. And I like to get that image and then text it to my host, and she can turn around and individually text it to her invited guests.
I also find that just texting right before the party, because everybody forgets.
This is true.
Busy lives.
Like an hour before,
Yes,
right? Because when they're like, oh, yes, I'm coming. Of course I am.